Hey, it's Steve, your bugbear best friend, and in the first real episode of this, we are going to get into the whys and hows of customizing a pre-written adventure. Starting with the why. Why customize a pre-written adventure? I'm part of it is I'm busy. I do not have the time to fully create an adventure from the ground up. I feel like customizing a pre-written adventure gives you an extra level of ownership over the game. And I also think it makes it easier to tailor the game to your players and their characters. Customizing a pre-written adventure also sets you up to where you're not locked in or you're not beholden to the official D&D lore. Especially if you're new to DMing, it gets you more comfortable with the creative process that goes into a written adventure, and it gets you used to the sort of things you need to consider for if and when you eventually start homebrewing your own stories and your own encounters. And at the end of the day, you end up with a unique universe that your game is set in and characters that only exist in your game, in your story, and at your table. So, moving on to the how to customize an adventure. There's a couple different levels of customization. There's some easy ones, and then there are some more difficult, time-consuming methods of customization. Keep in mind, you don't have to customize everything. You don't have to rewrite everything. When you're working on customizing a pre-written adventure or adjusting a pre-written campaign, customize it to your liking and your comfort level. Starting with the easy methods of customizing a pre-written adventure. Method number one is you can create new NPCs that don't exist in the pre-written adventure. They don't need to be a fully statted out character. You really just need a race and a name, and you're most of the way there. If you don't know where to put them or you're not comfortable with creating your own NPCs to include in an adventure, you can always change the names of pre-existing characters, change the names of people, places, things, and it doesn't even have to be a lot. You can make minor changes that maybe make the game flow or connect a little better, or just change a name you don't like to one that you do. Changing the names is one of the easiest ways to customize an adventure because once you change the name, there are a handful of things that I feel kind of naturally flow from there. You could change a character's visual appearance. You could change their race or their lineage. You could change or adjust their backstory or their history, or maybe even just their personality. Or if you really want to, you can just change the name and leave everything else about that character as it appears written in the book or the adventure. The reason why I like changing characters' names is it really opens the door for creativity as a DM, and it loosens you from that feeling of being limited to just what is written in the book or the adventure or the module. It also allows you as the DM to make stuff up during a session if you have to, and not necessarily contradict or screw up anything in the book. So if you want to come up with a new character, a new NPC, or if you want to change a character's name, where do you get your names from? There's several places that you can get names from when you're creating characters. One is you could just make them up out of your head. Some people are really good at that, some are not. If you're not really good at just inventing character names or coming up with cool names, you could also look at fantasy name generators. There's a lot of them out there. If you just Google fantasy name generators, several come up. You could also look at things like baby name websites, or if you're looking for a specific vibe that you want to give off with your names, you can look up names from specific cultures or specific time periods. And you can also go to IMDb and look at movie credits, or just stay and watch the credits for movies and TV shows that you like. There's a lot of really cool names in the credits of movies and TV shows. And finally, you can also steal names from something that you like that already exists. Books, TV shows, movies, characters from these things. Just take them if you want them. I have a D&D prep notebook here, and I have a section in my notebook that is just for names. I write down full names, I write down titles, first names, last names, parts of names, and then when I need them, I just look through the running list that I've got and see what feels right, and then I cross off the ones that I use to make sure that I don't use them again. I am also currently running the Tyranny of Dragons campaign for my players, and I have a Word document on my computer with all of the names of major characters and NPCs from that pre-written module. In my Word document, if something's in red, it means that that's the original name that I didn't like and that I wanted to change it. And then if it's in green, that is the final version that makes it into the game. And if you are going to be customizing something, if you are going to be adjusting a pre-written adventure, you could also use, if you have a physical book, you could use sticky notes in the book to cover up and replace names. If you have a PDF that you're running things off of, you can use the highlight or the drawing tool to cover up and write over names that you've changed. Come up with a system that works for you so that you have access to those names when you need them. Alongside changing the name of a character or an NPC, you can also change the names of cities and locations in an adventure. Similar to changing the name of an NPC, changing the name of a city or a location that the players will go to is a very easy way to start customizing or adjusting an adventure to fit your players and their backstory. Where do you get names for cities and locations? Again, similar to NPC names, you can get them from fantasy name generators. You can also steal from real maps and real locations like forests, rivers, or mountains, or steal from places in video games. There are quite a few names from my game that I stole from the Ogre Battle franchise. It is a game that or a series of games that I grew up playing that I loved, and the players in my D&D game have not played, so I went through and I just took out all the cool ones, used it for inspiration. So that's another option that you have. So those are a handful of easy ways to customize a pre-written campaign by changing little things. There's also bigger changes that you can make that are more difficult. One of the bigger ways that you can customize is changing or adjusting combat encounters. I'm not going to go into specifics on this one right now. I will go into this further in later videos when I'm going through the chapters of Tyranny of Dragons and how I ran them and how I changed them, because this one is a little more specific and a little more contextual. You kind of need to know what's going on around it to be able to balance the encounter. But we will get to that as an option. One of the other big ways that you can change or customize an adventure, if you have the time, if you would like to, is you can customize or adjust the map for that adventure. Customizing or adjusting the map for a campaign is hard. I made a customized version of the map for my game using the Sword Coast as the base. And it was supposed to be this cool, big, full color map that I was going to give out, and I never finished the full color version because it took me so long to finish it in just black and white. But I will put in the description of this video a link to two copies of the maps that I have for my game. One of them is the final version that has all the cities in and everything labeled. The other one is a blank map with the cities marked out on the map, but without any names in. So if you want to customize a map of the Sword Coast yourself, you have access to it, go for it. Since Tyranny of Dragons happens along the Sword Coast, I figured it was easier to use the Sword Coast as a base for my map and just adjust from there. And the way that I did that, I just opened up a copy of a Sword Coast map in the Sketchbook app on my laptop. I added a few layers above it, and then I traced the entire map. Once I had it traced, I made some small changes and moved some things around to match what was going on in my game, and then I just started adding in names from there. while I was working on it, I printed out a physical copy of the map and I just wrote directly on it as I was trying out names, coming up with new things, and seeing where I felt everything fit. Once I had the names locked in, I would go back to the digital copy and add those names in. When I was pretty much finished, I printed out the whole thing again, and it's actually up on the wall in my living room for my players to look at and use while we play our game. I hope that information was useful and helps you with your games. If there's anything specific or any topics that you want me to touch on, let me know. You can leave a comment or send me an email at bugbearbestie@gmail.com. And in the next episode, we're going to go into customizing the Tyranny of Dragons campaign, specifically with a focus on customizing the Cult of the Dragons. So, hope you guys had a good time, and I'll see you next time.